Hey guys, Carmine Bianco of WagerTalk.com. This is the Australian Open 2021 preview. With me are Nick Borrman and Andrew McInnis of WagerTalk.com. We're going to look over this year's tournament and some possible future bets that have some value on both sides, the men's and women's draw. Let me bring in both Nick Borrman and Andrew McInnis for a quick hello. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks. Thanks for asking. We're just dealing with a bunch of snow where I'm from, so it'll be fun to watch the Australian Open where these guys are sweating in 95-degree heat. It'll make me feel a little bit warmer at least watching this thing.
Yeah, you guys are hit by a snowstorm, and I think it made its way up to Canada. It hasn't hit north of Toronto as of yet, but on our east coast, I think it hit Mr. Andrew McInnis. I think he's been out there shoveling snow. Andrew, how you doing?
Yeah, I definitely got snow, but I definitely wasn't shoveling. Uh, but super excited to get in some tennis, guys. Happy to do the show with you. I'm already used to watching games at all hours of the day. Now we're bringing in the Aussie Open, and we're just getting started, guys, with these weird times with games. But I can't wait to get back to betting on some tennis. How you doing, Carm?
Doing good. It's these late nights of sports for a guy like me. It gets kind of rough when you're watching the early soccer games. I know when the pandemic hit last year in sort of the middle of summer, as Nick will tell you, we were betting Nicaraguan soccer. We were releasing some plays on South Korean soccer, and it drove my wife absolutely nuts. She's trying to sleep, and here I am with my iPhone watching South Korean soccer at 3 a.m. in the morning on my on Bet365 app. So with that said, I enjoy a hell of a lot more. Having played tennis all throughout high school and in university for our for both teams, it's a sport that is near and dear to me, and I enjoy it. Let's get right into this tournament. I'm going to talk about this tournament. Obviously, the Australian Open 2021 was supposed to go smoothly. It's not going smoothly. They brought in all the players early to quarantine and to play in the tune-up tournament, where there was reports all over the place from the women on their Instagrams showing that the accommodations that they had little mice running around. They were feeding the mice. There was just a ton of stuff going on, but they made it through it. It looked like everything was set to go, and then the warm-up tournament has been paused because one of the hotels that had 600 players and staff, someone from the hotel tested positive, so people are in quarantine. But the tournament is going to go ahead. They're running a bunch of tests. A lot of them are coming back negative, so we're good to go. Later on Friday, the draw will come out, and we'll see where the players stand up. So what we're going to do is on this show is we're going to give out some futures bets, a couple that we like, along with some long shot plays in them. I'm going to go to Nick first on it, and we're going to talk about the women's draw first. Unlike the men's draw, the women's draw is a draw where, the last 10 years, 8 of the last 10 years has been a different face winning, other than Serena Williams winning twice, other than Victoria Azarenka winning twice. We've seen different people winning this tournament, unlike the men's, that it's usually the same 3 or 4 usual suspects. Some of the stories we're going to hear: Serena going for a record-tying 24th slam, single slam, her 8th also Aussie slam. Poland's Iga Swiatek, who steamrolled everybody in the French Open. She is here. Azarenka, who took off last year's tournament and has won twice. She's one of my personal favorites, of course. And then you have ones like Barty, the number 1 seed. This is her home tournament, although she is not the favorite on the odds board at plus 800. That goes to Naomi Osaka, who's in absolutely great form at plus 500. So, Nick, I'm going to throw this one to you first. As far as myself, when I attack these tournaments and release plays at WagerTalk, a lot of my plays are on the game handicaps and both player versus player game handicaps and total game handicaps. I don't take a lot of sides on the money line, just because the prices are so skewed that if you're taking these minus 400s and 500s, they're just going to kill your bankroll. So I would prefer to take plus 8.5, plus 9.5, or I'll lay 6.5, and total games. What are you looking at to do in this tournament? And odds-wise, women's side, give us some winners.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, not only do you see minus 400, minus 500, you see guys minus 2,000, minus 3,000, obviously unbettable. So, when you're looking at the futures market, you already hit it on the head. The women's draw is definitely more open than the men's draw, and the odds certainly reflect that. You have 13 players right now on the women's side that are 25 to 1 or less versus just 6 on the men's side. Just gives you an idea of the competitiveness of both of the tours. This year, you mentioned the chaos, I guess you can call it, that's going on down there, and it's hard. I mean, you had players, everybody was kind of flown in 3 weeks ahead of time because they had a warm-up tournament planned, so that way they could do 2 weeks of quarantining. They were allowed to do warm-ups during that time and then have a warm-up tournament to get everybody ready, right? Well, that worked for some people, but then apparently there were quite a few players that were on flights where somebody on the flight, because they weren't specifically just tennis players on the flights, had tested positive. So those people weren't allowed out of their rooms at all for 2 straight weeks, while the other players were allowed to at least go out in blocks and practice and get swings in. So it's kind of like you have this weird nuance of trying to figure out, well, who's got the advantage as far as being able to actually play a little bit. And now with this warm-up tournament getting pushed back, and who knows if they'll finish. Some people might be 3 weeks without not only touching a racket, but obviously having any sort of competitive games going on. So it's a little tough. You're going to have to be careful of certainly going into these matches, at least the first couple, try to get a feel for who's doing what. But for the future side, I mean, again, the women's draw a little bit more open. A couple players I'm looking at here. Simona Halep, number 2 ranked woman in the world. She's down to 5th or 6th as far as betting favorite goes. And I think she's got good value. She's, you can find her from plus 1,100, plus 1,200, somewhere in that range right now if you shop around. I think she's got longer odds right now than Serena Williams, and I would put all my money on the bet that she's going to go further in this tournament than Serena's going to go. She finished 2020 with a 23-3 overall record, and after the return of play in August, she lost 1 match. She won her first 2 events she played, and then lost in the round of 16 in the French Open. And then she opened 2021 with a win over number 1 Ashley Barty in that exhibition match over here in Australia, a day at the Drive. I know it was just exhibition, but still, she looked very sharp. And so a lot of this, I'll wait a little bit and see the pass, and then determine, okay, if they can win their quarter, which is basically make the semifinals, at anything over plus 1,000, you're going to have a good chance to hedge out and guarantee yourself some money. So Halep provides a good opportunity this week. I also like Arina Sabalenka. She's plus 900. She went 29-10 with 3 wins in 2010. She won her last start before the COVID shutdown. And then she kind of struggled as play resumed. She lost in the second round in 3 straight events. Then she started to get her groove back. And then by the end of 2020, she won back-to-back events. She picked up right where she left off. She won the first event in 21, which gave her 3 straight tournament wins. And she did lose the first round in this warm-up tournament, but not too worried about it. She's a great player. She's going to go probably pretty far in this tournament. Again, want to wait for the draw, but at plus 900. And my longer shot that I would throw out there for this event, you guys will appreciate this. The Canadian, Bianca Andreescu, plus 1,600. She's definitely a riskier play. She missed all of last year with knee injury, and then didn't really want to come back with COVID. So she certainly is a risky play. But everything I'm reading and hearing about her is that, training-wise, she's been doing a ton. She looks good. She's fit. But again, she's a little bit more risky on that side. But listen, she's a great young player. She's 20 years old. She went in 2018, she was 152nd in the world. She went all the way up to number 5 with a 48-7 record with 4 tournament wins, including the U.S. Open 2 years ago. So again, she's got tons and tons of upside. I think she'll do well in this tournament. Not sure if she'll get all the way to the finals just because it's her first time back, but she's definitely worth a look in my opinion.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you on the Andreescu one. Obviously, we've seen a lot of her up here, and an absolutely fantastic run in winning that slam. The time off, even though she has been, has been practicing, has been playing, kind of worries me. The fact that she pulled out of the tune-up tournament, I would have liked to have seen her in there and just get some playing time under her belt, but. As a Canadian, I'm hoping to see a deep run from her. Before I throw it to Andrew, I'm going to echo the thoughts on my plays. Obviously, it's the number one seed, Barty, at plus 800. I have to take her if she gets a good half of the side. When I'm looking at these futures for the guys in there, because it's the same thing with soccer or NHL or any other sport, I have a separate account for futures bets. And my approach is normally to take prices that I know can make deep runs, and at some point I will hedge out of those bets for a profit. The idea for me in the futures market is just to make a profit and keep building the account, not to sit on a play and just hope that they win, make it to the finals and win. No, it's to hedge out for a profit. It's much like investing in stocks. You get in, you get out, and you make some profit, and you move on to the next tournament. With that in mind, obviously, not the greatest prices, but Osaka and Barty both at plus 500, plus 800. But I'm echoing Nick's thoughts on this one. I bet this one very early and got a much better price on Sabalenko. Yeah, listen, she finished off 2020 with a couple wins, and listen, she beat on hardcore wins. She beat Azarenka, she beat Mertens, and then in Abu Dhabi, she started 2021 with another win on hardcourt. Like you said, Nick, I don't put much stock in that last tournament, sort of the one and done. But I think she'll make a deep run here. I'm hoping she draws very well, and that'll probably be out later today. It's 2 a.m. in Australia right now. It's only 10 a.m. here on the East Coast. So we'll probably get that draw out in about 6 or 7 hours and see how that shapes up. Andrew, I'm going to bring you in. You've been waiting patiently, my friend. Any thoughts on how you want to attack the tournament as far as sides, totals, games, and give us some futures bets?
Well, quite often, Carm, I look at totals. I do look at the totals for the games, and I think it's a good way of getting out of these minus 2,000s, like Nick was saying, and the big favorites, like you were touching on, Carm, because nobody wants to lay that. Also, I know you can't really touch on this right now, but pregame, but in-game betting is great with tennis, and I think we would all agree to preach to try and avoid laying huge numbers, like you said, Carm. Bet the games and look at those type of avenues you can take to avoid laying such big juice. But speaking of which, I kind of tend to have a different opinion than you guys as far as it being a wide open field. I think it's obviously going to be very competitive, but I find that the field is the most competitive. I think that when every player is in form, when every player has been in consistent competition. So I'm kind of taking a different look at it and looking at some of these top guys getting ready to just get back out there and dominate. Sometimes we see whether it's soccer for you guys or basketball or whatever it might be, a team has played a lot of games and they're tired, they're fatigued, they might get upset by somebody and things of that nature. But now it's not as much of that. It's these players are getting ready to get back out there. So I like Osaka. She's fresh off winning the Open. She's looked like great. She's in great form. She's also proven to battle back after being down, which is something I always look at. Has someone faced adversity? So I do like that quite a bit. Halep, Nick and I are saying it a little bit different, but 76% win percentage on clay for her. This is obviously a huge thing we talk about and we mention on the show, whether it's hardcore, whether it's clay. She is completely dominated on that. And the odds aren't too bad for her, listed at plus 1,000. And my long shot, which honestly isn't too much of a long shot, really. I struggle with the name, but Svitolina at plus 2,000. Talk about good form, guys. She has certainly proven herself, certainly worked her way up the ranks, as we see right now. She's higher in the ranks for clay as well than she is in the regular WTP rankings. And for my tennis handicapping, it's very particularly different for hardcourt versus clay. So definitely someone I wanted to have in my futures picks here at the plus 2,000 mark, Carm.
All right. I like it. Some good info there. Welcome to the guys in chat. Sebastian is actually in Australia. It's 2:21 a.m. If he's on his third or fourth espresso to stay awake, thank you for him for doing that. Guys, we're going to switch over to the men's draw, and it's the usual suspects here. It's unlike the sort of the women's draw. We seem to see the same guys making, the deep runs in this tournament. So for me, it's very simple. I'm going to throw it to Nick next on this. I'm going to take the same approach here. Unfortunately, I just talked about taking very good prices and hedging them out later. You're not getting that with Djokovic. He's plus 120 to win the tournament. You never see odds like this normally, but he was plus 120, I think, in the last slam as well too. It's one of those ones where you almost have to take the approach of he's literally going to probably be in the finals. I just don't see how he loses along the way unless he smashes a ball into one of the ball girls or line judges and gets disqualified from the tournament. At plus 120, he's going to be there. So you could say
I'm not
to
sure
yourself,
to laugh or not right now, Carm. I don't know to laugh
well,
about that or not.
it's what happens, unfortunately. But you could take the approach of taking him to win the tournament at plus 120, because if he makes the finals, whether it's against Thiem or Medvedev, he's still going to be probably minus 300, minus 400. So if you think he's going to make the finals, then you're basically buying a finals price at plus 120, which is a way of looking at it. It's a completely different way as futures market. Thiem, I'm assuming, will make another deep run. Long shot wise, and then I'm going to throw it to Nick on this one, is Rublev. You know what I mean? Like, he's 9-4 at the Australian Open. Last year made it to the round of 16 before losing in straight sets to Zverev, but he's plus 2,500. It's not a bad price. That if he can make it to the round of 16 or the quarterfinals, again, you can get out at plus 2,500. It's all about the draw, and we'll see the draw coming out soon. Nick, give me your thoughts on this, on the men's draw or the men's side.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, the men's side is certainly top heavy. So I guess nobody needs us to tell them to take Djokovic here. I think everybody's probably going to throw a little something on the guy, because you're right. He probably will be there. He's going to be coming out of his quarter, unless what happens, unless he throws a ball or hits a ball at a lines judge. So unless he knocks himself out, he'll probably be there at the end. So I'm going to give out some value plays, I think, on guys that could make deep runs. And again, depending on their draws, if they can make it to the semis, get out of their corners, they're going to be great hedge opportunities. The first one I love is Zverev. This guy, I was watching him during the U.S. Open, and he was just consistently hitting 140 miles an hour plus with his serve. And I'm like, and when he was on, there was a couple matches where, nobody was touching him. He was really, really strong. He ended up losing in the final in a 5th set tiebreaker to Thiem, which was just an awesome final. But he is very, very good. He proceeded to win twice in back-to-back events in Germany after that. He did end the season on a down note with a 1-2 record in the ATP finals. But again, he is a great, great player service-wise. The one thing about him, we talk about, there are great servers on this tour. Guys like John Isner. But besides them, he can actually return the ball. So he's a great play to make a deep run. You hit the other one I like, Rublev. Plus 2,500 or so right now. He won 5 events in 2020, finished with a 41-10 record. He did lose in the quarters in both the U.S. Open and French Open, but it just shows how close he is. He's not quite there, but he's close. He did win 3 other events around those majors, but like Zverev, he also finished with a 1-2 record in the ATP finals. Again, just showing he's not quite at that level as your Djokovic, your Thiem, your Medvedev. But depending on the draw, worthy of a play, great opportunity to hedge later. And the longest shot, Jannik Sinner, he's 19 years old. He's not going to win. He's not quite there yet. His ranking is 36 in the world, but the bookies don't believe that. They have him ranked as the 10th lowest odds right now. So they're on to what he's going to become. I think he's going to become, a year from now, top 10 player. Everything looks that way for this kid. And he just, he's fun to watch. I don't think he's going to win this event, but at plus 3,500 is worthy of something, depending on the draw, to make it. Maybe not all the way to the semis, but maybe he can make the final of his quarter. And again, and still at plus 3,500, give you a great chance to hedge out at that point. So those are the 3 longer shot plays I like on the men's side.
Yeah, Nick, and listen, I get it. Before I throw it to Andrew here, I get it. The problem is that we're faced with, heading into this tournament, is there was so much uncertainty with it. Not enough, obviously, warm-up tournaments. So as much as you want to play some of these bigger priced guys, it's just so tough on the men's side of the draw, and you almost look for that safety net of what is normal in an abnormal world. And the Nadals, the Djokovics of making deep runs. Unless something absolutely weird happens, you're going to see these guys in the semifinals. So you start to look at who can make a deep run at a good price that I may be able to hedge out later on. It's just so tough in this first tournament. I'm still looking forward to it. And this is why the women's draw brings in a completely different dynamic, because for some reason we always seem to see a fresh face. In the French Open, I just don't know how people slept on Swiatek. She was so dominant early in that tournament that you could just see she was going to roll through the tournament. I just kept betting any future I could get on her throughout that tournament. So, Andrew, men's draw, what do you got? What do you like? And throw us something that could hit.
I'll try my best for you, Carm. But look, I know Nick, you said like you don't want to. We know everyone's going to be looking at the Joker, right? And I think it's so interesting because you look back and Carm says, and I've seen Carm do this in hockey because of course I do the hockey show with Carm. I've seen Carm pick these 14-1s and 16-1s and then hedge out, right? Because that's the strategy that Carmine has talked about for futures. But I look at it like this, during the holidays, there was the World Hockey Tournament going on. It was the junior tournament, and Canada was plus 200. But I don't look at it as, okay, it's a good opportunity to get in and see what happens at the end. I look at it the same way that we were just talking about Djokovic and saying, yeah, he's probably going to make the finals, or at worst, he'll make the semis. So I kind of don't really even look at it as a future. I look at this as my ticket to him in the finals, or my ticket for him in the semifinals, and that's kind of the angle, because in the betting community, every handicapper has a different way of talking about the term value. But I wouldn't even really call this value. It's more so this is your bet slip right now for the finals. You're just holding on to it. I'm not going to be sitting here sweating bullets waiting to see if Joker makes a deep run. We know he's going to make it pretty deep. So I definitely wouldn't have any problem with anybody laying that number here and getting this price. I feel like you're betting him to win the finals right now at plus 120. A guy I like right now at plus 500 is Medvedev, guys. This guy doesn't know what the word loss means recently. This guy also, he's beaten the best. He's defeated all of these guys up there, and that means a lot to me. It's been recently as well. It hasn't been a long time ago that he's done that, and I think he's just so powerful. He also is, I find he's strong mentally, and it's kind of funny to say that because I don't really use that in a lot of my other handicapping, but in tennis, as we talked about with Djokovic, throwing rackets at people, you have to be able to be strong. And I've seen Medvedev bounce back and kind of get his act together again after a horrible set or after a really couple of bad plays. So that means a lot to me. I think Medvedev's great. He's one of my favorite players to watch. Very powerful guy. And then my long shot here, which isn't too much really of a long shot, Zverev at plus 1,600. At any moment, this guy can heat up and get hot. And I feel like this could be a tournament for him coming off a lot of rest.
All right. Some great info there, guys. And again, thanks to everyone in the chat. Shane puts up a good stat in the, not a tennis stat, but a good options bet, just because I like KC. We did that WagerTalk TikTok thing with the guys, and I took the Chiefs at the end. But Shane says you could take Djokovic to win the tournament and the Kansas City Chiefs to win the Super Bowl and get about 3-1 on your money, plus 300, I think he said. If you're taking the money line on KC, it's about plus 253 I'm seeing right now. If you take the point spread, it's obviously higher, but a good call by Shane there. Put a few bucks on that one. That's not a bad one. The plus 500s, I just want to finish this off. The plus 500s on guys like Thiem and Medvedev and Nadal, they're where they are right now because, in all honesty, two of those three guys are going to have to face each other before they face likely Djokovic in the finals. It's just the way it's set up. So when that draw comes out, it could very well be Nadal has to face Thiem, let's say, in the semis before he faces Djokovic in the finals. If you're taking Djokovic to obviously make the finals, or it's Medvedev versus one of those. So it's a tougher draw, and that's why they're that price and not you don't see a Nadal at plus 350 for this tournament. So this is why it's a tougher route for these guys.
If I can, just a question for you guys on the panel. What, as far as people are always asking us about bankroll management, 3%, 4%, 5%, of that nature. With these futures, how do you guys approach it as far as a regular bet goes versus this type of bet? Because I consider that Djokovic bet just a regular bet at the plus 120, but some of these other plus 500s, a little bit different.
Yeah, I'll let Nick go next. But as far as me is, I'm not looking at it as the Djokovic, taking Djokovic plus 120 for me is not a futures bet. I just expect them to be in the finals, so I'm playing a plus 120 ticket for the finals. You can look at it as a futures bet. We're probably splitting hairs on it, but it's not. It's not going into my futures account. It's going into my regular sports betting account. I keep those two separate. So it's just a plus 120 ticket on him because I expect him to be in the finals, and I'd rather have him at plus 120 than the, minus 300, minus 400 that he likely will be. Nick?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to take Djokovic, which, first of all, I do not disagree with taking Djokovic. I just didn't want to, I wasn't putting him out there because I figure most people know that Djokovic is a good bet.
Definitely.
But the strategy to take him because you're going to get him in the final at that price is definitely sound. The only worry I have with Djokovic, and it's not really a worry, it's just the only one thing I would look at is when the draw comes out, if he's on the same side as Medvedev, I think Medvedev's got the best chance to give him trouble just because the guy is so lanky and returns everything. Just watching him play, he gets everything. It's amazing. He's all over that freaking court, and he's not really one of the best servers out there, but his return game is really strong, and it's hard to put a ball away against him. So that would be my only worry of him making the finals. If he's opposite side of Medvedev, I don't think it's any issue. But if he's on the same side as Medvedev, perhaps in that semifinals, he could get tripped up, or at least extend a long match. Listen, Joker's in great shape. He always is. I don't know. I'm not too worried about it. He's a guy that we didn't kind of talk about this, but when you're looking at the futures market, if you have guys like Djokovic, what's going to happen with them most of the time? They're going to play a lot of 3-set short matches, right? And by the time you're talking about 14 days of heat and 7 potential matches to win the finals, that adds up to when you get to the finals, you're a lot fresher than a guy that we were talking about, like some of the guys I mentioned, a Sinner or a Rublev, that, you know what, maybe the first couple rounds they've seen through, but then round 3 or 4, all of a sudden they're going 4 sets and maybe a 5-setter. And by the time they get it to that point, they're just out of gas. So Djokovic is still a good bet. But to answer the question, 1%, 0.5% maybe on some of these long shots. Jokes are 3-4% for sure if you're going to go with that because of the strategy there. But it's definitely going to be smaller stakes because you don't need to. I mean, you're taking a small – it's like I'm going to throw $10 on the chance to win $1,000. That kind of a mentality. Yeah. Why it's not going to come through too much. So you don't want to put it out. And maybe the way I can look at it is taking a normal bet risk, maybe it's 3%, and playing your entire futures card besides Djokovic on that amount. So maybe you split up 3 or 4 guys with your 3%.
All right. I was about to hit the buzzer on Nick there, but that's Nick Borrman, Andrew McInnis. Thank you guys for coming on the show. Obviously, I'm Carmine Bianco, WagerTalk.com. There's the buzzer. Thanks to all the guys in the chat and all the stuff that you guys were talking about. Smash that like button. I am going to put up a deal on all 3 capper pages for the tournament. Instead of just the tournament, I was going to do $79 for the tournament. All tennis plays released right to the finals. I'm going to do it for 30 days. So 30 days of tennis plays because there's tournaments that follow this one. So 30 days of tennis for only $79. Head over to your favorite cappers page, click on their in the drop down menu for tennis and find the 30 days for $79. Guys, thanks for tuning in and good luck with your wagers.